After 50 years of partners in crime, after destroying Ukraine together for the last 3 years, the United States had decided to turn their back on the European Union. The European Unions are like, what the fuck? We are not even on the spectator list, not to talk about being on the guest list. What the fuck is going on here? United States had finally made peace with Russia. And now what? What is the EU going to do about that? That is the question. Sanctions are being lifted without the EU knowing what is what or what is happening. For the first time in 50 years, maybe more, the EU is sidelined by the United States. MasterCard and Visa had returned to Russia and now fully functioning and fully operational in Russia. The European Union is done. We laugh about this, we're talking about this, but trust me, go and mark my words. The European Union are done, completely done. I mean, this shame must be so unbearable for the EU. The embarrassment of, let me put it this way. This got to be the embarrassment of the century, what the EU is experiencing right now. United States got the EU exactly where they wanted them to be. Now, times are going to be really tough for the EU. Trust.
Now, it's a little bit long. Barrister, the United States have got the EU where they wanted them to be. Do you agree with this speaker? I don't even know his name, but I have watched he talks sense actually when it comes to global affairs. So once in a while, some of his video pops up and I go through, but honestly, I don't know his name, but the guy makes a lot of sense. All the videos I've watched, all his videos are very, very, very well thought out, very well articulated. Barrister, do you agree with him that okay, go ahead.
I will say yes and no. Because number one, the matters have not gone to the level that he has articulated. In terms of the relationship between the US and EU, we all know what Trump has put up there in the open space. With the relation to Ukraine, rather than make that comment, I would rather say an adult has come into the room from what was happening before. An adult has come into the room. Here is somebody who expressed total lack of wisdom and maturity in deciding to fight his larger and more powerful neighbor. Honestly. On the strength of another country, honestly. Not on his own strength.
Honestly.
Ukraine decided to engage Russia in a war, not on your strength, but on the strength of people who promise you that they will support you, the US and the EU. That is lack of wisdom, and that is lack of maturity. You know what the situation is in the US. Government can change, public opinion can change, a lot of things can change. And while Joe Biden was there, obviously, to the US, even the EU, they had no end game in the war between Ukraine and Russia.
Just like US did in Afghanistan and in Iraq. No end game.
No end game. They can't project and say in the next 3 years, the war will end against Russia, we will overrun Russia and make Russia of no account. Nobody could tell you that. Rather, the realization has come that Ukraine cannot defeat Russia, even with the support of NATO, with the support of 39 countries of NATO and the US. The realization in the US and EU has come now that even with that support, Ukraine will not be able to defeat Russia. So what do you do in a situation like that? That is why I say Trump has come as the adult in the room to put a stop to something that they know has no end. The killings, the destruction, more of Ukraine than of Russia. Today, vast areas, vast cities are in complete and terrible ruin in Ukraine. And it can only continue. And nobody was talking about that. All they were talking of give Ukraine more weapons. Every weapon from the beginning of the war, and I wish to point out, if you go back to the beginning of the war, they say give Ukraine Stinger anti-aircraft missiles and the war will be over. They gave them. Give them Abraham's tank and the war will be over. They give them. Give them F-16 fighter jets and the war will be over. They gave them. Give them Atacms and long-range missiles, Spiros and others from France, Britain, and others, and the war will go. They gave them, and the war has not been over. Rather, the war has been going against Ukraine. Now, Ukraine, after all the weapons that they can get, they are now saying, give us our nuclear weapons. So that is the last weapon that they are now asking. The United States should return the nuclear weapons that they took from Ukraine at the breakup of the Soviet Union. So you can see the history, all the weapons that they have been talking about. If they give Ukraine, Ukraine will win the war. Nothing has happened. Now you want nuclear weapons. So everybody with sense knows that that war is a dead end, that war ought to be brought to an end, not just in the interest of Ukraine, but ironically, in the interest of EU as well. Because most of the countries of EU are suffering terribly from the sanctions that has been imposed on Russia, even more disproportionately than Russia itself. Countries like Slovakia and others are suffering more. Hungary are suffering more from the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia than Russia itself is suffering. Surprisingly, to both the West and the EU, Russia has absorbed all the sanctions that economic and financial sanctions that have been heaped on them. They thought that if they did it, Russia would not survive for up to 6 months. Russia was able to outlive them, stabilize their economy, and project further in the next years to come. So what is wrong about Trump coming and saying, let's put an end to this war? And in doing that, let's be realistic about what can be given and what
now let me ask you,
ultimately this will benefit Ukraine, it will benefit the EU.
Yeah, but let me ask you, because their gross against Trump is this. Of course, they know the adult is an adult is now in the room. There's no doubt about that. They know, they are aware of it. The global community, the global leaders, they hate Trump, but they fear and respect him. They hate but fear and respect him because he's a man of his word. He's a man of decisiveness. So they don't. People like that. He's a very principled man. He does what he says, and he says what he does. So he's a very transparent person. An unpredictable person. So people like that, of course, you better put your house together. Otherwise, you get his hammer would drop on you, and that's exactly what they are trying to avoid. Now, their gross against Trump is, you are doing this thing. Why you are sidelining us? We are the ones involved in this thing. You are just meeting Putin, doing the negotiation on your own, independent of us, and Ukraine again or whatever. And Barrister, do you think, because in my own opinion, Trump, honestly, that man, I love Trump. He has a very good sense of judgment, and he has very good instincts. Almost perfect instinct, because his instincts have always been right, and that is why his instinct that actually guides him into saying something, bringing out some kind of thing into the public, being politically incorrect, saying things that people don't dare not say, do things that other people dare not do. do things that politicians don't do. But at the end of the day, when he says or does anything like that, people will cry fast. Ah, this man has committed abomination. Ah, this does not make sense. Ah, this is just unimaginable. What is he talking about? But at the end of the day, give it time. That thing that he did or said will eventually dawn on people and realize that everybody will realize that, man, this man may actually make sense. And this thing is doable. This thing is realistic. This thing can be done. And the same people who criticized him in the first instance will begin to renege in their criticism. So, Barrister, do you think that it is wrong for Trump not to carry the EU along and Ukraine itself?
Well, for me, it is premature to involve Ukraine and EU at this point, because for now, EU has nothing to offer at that table, and so also Ukraine. Remember the reply that Trump gave when they said they are not being carried out. He said you have 3 years.
Good.
You had 3 years to put
That's
this
actually
thing
my
behind
point.
you. So the adult has come, seeing children playing rough play, and nobody to whip them into line. The adult has come and is determined to whip.
That is it.
Whip them into line. At a point, obviously, EU will be consulted, Ukraine will be consulted. But for now, the parameters of negotiation for peace have to be laid. They don't have to be involved. That they don't have, EU has nothing to offer at the table where they are setting the parameters for peace. But at a point, they will be involved. So will Ukraine. At a point, that will happen. But for now, it is premature to make noise and claim that they are being sidelined.
Did you also notice that even when the EU called for an emergency meeting, did you hear any of their communique? Did they make any statement after the meeting? Did you hear anything?
I was waiting to see because this meeting was spearheaded by Macron of France, and it was to discuss Trump and his effect on the EU. I was eagerly awaiting to hear what the communique they will release. The resolutions are passed, but they have been silent all through. They realize, but their grandstanding, all this issue that Ukraine has been sidelined, that EU has been sidelined, is grandstanding. They know that for now they have nothing to bring to that table, except chaos and sabotage at this stage. So remember, Zelensky has a decree in Ukraine that prohibits any meeting or discussion with Russia. He has not set aside that decree. So what is he coming to the table to do? There's a decree in Ukraine prohibiting anybody from discussing any settlement or meeting with Russia. So he has to first go and put his house in order before you can talk about coming to the table, where you have already prohibited any discussion to that effect. The EU, who have been, Trump recognizes the propaganda that if nothing is done, Russia will attack Europe. It's just plain propaganda. And Trump realizes that. Of course, they sold it to Joe Biden because he doesn't know much. But Trump realizes that Russia is not a threat to the rest of Europe. So this thing has to be that propaganda that Britain, France, and all these things, that if Russia is not stopped in Ukraine, Putin will not stop there. He will attack NATO country. That is pure brabbadash. And Trump that for what it is.
The bottom line, let me just tell you the truth about this whole thing. To be frank, even the Joe Biden, all of them, they know, contrary to what you just said, Honestly, they know. EU know. They know all those things. But why are they pushing for this war? They know that nothing good will come out of this war, and that is why there is no exit plan. They only US, they always go into war. Look at Afghanistan, look at Iraq. They go into war without exit plan. Do you know why? Because they don't have exit plan because it is their intention not to have exit plan, Barrister. They want to perpetuate, they don't want to perpetually keep fighting this war. You know why? Industrial military complex.
Of course.
Military industrial complex. People are making money, including Joe Biden. Like I told you, they know this thing. They desire it. They crave it. They push for it because of the monetary gains. They know all these things. The EU, the Joe Biden, all of them. You had, excuse me, Zelensky said the almost 200 billion or whatever, 100 billion was missing. He didn't know anything about 100 billion. About 100 billion is not, he cannot account for it. He doesn't even know what happened. He didn't get, that 100 billion didn't get to him. Where do you think the 100 billion went to? Of course, that is the problem. That is why they have interest in that war. Because if they don't, if there is no war, they won't make money. And that is why they don't always have, they don't always have exit plan. The same thing happened in other climes they went into. No exit plan. So, but Trump is an anti-war kind of person. Trump hates it when people just keep dying. That man is I don't know why people demonize that man. That man is so humane, and he behaves the human part of him is just so pronounced that he doesn't even hide it. He doesn't even hide it. The man hates it when people does because that is what he is hammering on. People are just dying. That death is what is killing him. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want it. Of course. So that is the problem.
Of course, you are 100% right. If there is no enemy, what will happen to the military-industrial complex? What will happen to the trillions of dollars allocated to defense? They will go down.
Of course.
So this has been what has been driving wars. Somebody must be an enemy. It has always been Russia. Now, if you see they are pivoting to China, there must always be an enemy whereby we can galvanize and rally the American people, rally the European Union people for the military-industrial complex and budget that we go to them. This military-industrial complex is actually what rules America. And their growth with Trump has always been that he will stop
the war
in the Nigerian
that is it.
Their food.
That
is just the of all these things. There must be an enemy against whom we will face. We will rally our people. We are spending trillions on defense budget because this person is threatening to attack us. So they must have an enemy. It's just as simple as that. That is what has driven the wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, everywhere. You see that thread is there.
Yeah, that is just it. So let's not deceive ourselves that these people they are calculating this, they are calculating that. This is their plan. This is their end game. Forget about it. They know that's why they never had any exit plan. Again, this cannot be overemphasized. Why they don't have? There is no US as a country. They are too smart. US military, US intelligence community. They are too smart to go into a war without an exit plan. You should understand that. US have the smartest intelligence in the world. Smartest intelligence community in the world. So what are we talking about? You want to tell me that as smart as the intelligence community that the US has or have, they just go into a war without the plan of an exit? Of course No, that's just to tell you that it's a deliberate thing. Look at Afghanistan, for God's sake. They fought war. I remember when they started that war, during that, after the 9/11. I was so excited, foolishly then, because then I thought, we all believed that Saddam Hussein was a villain. Not knowing that the US just sold us a propaganda that the entire world, and unfortunately they have the media. That is what pains me. See this media of a thing. The establishments are the ones controlling this media globally, both locally and globally. The moment they want a narrative that favors them, that will attract interest or sympathy on them, they'll use the media to push those narratives. We had all that. Saddam Hussein, he had this, he had weapon of mass destruction, he had this, he had that, or whatever, and they went into Iraq. They went into Iraq. Then it came to the 9/11 again. The 9/11, I hope you have had it, the barrister, that the Saudis, the Saudi government has hand in 9/11. You had that the report is under. I don't know why they don't want to unseal that report, because Saudi has been indicted on that or whatever, and that is why even the matter is in court. The 9/11 victims, the families, the case have been in court for. They won Saudi. I think at the high court level or whatever. I don't know. I think the matter is either at the appeal court or Supreme Court. I can't remember. It got to a point that I wasn't following the case anymore. But the truth is that what the 9/11 families, 9/11 victim families are asking the government to unseal the investigation, because investigation points at Saudi government. They sponsored that 9/11. And because me, in my own judgment, you see what I'm suspecting about 9/11. I believe that US have hand in that 9/11 too. People in US government, they had hand in that 9/11. You know why? So that they will have a reason to go to war. They will have a reason to fight. They will have a reason to dispatch war machineries to make more money. That is just because it was after that 9/11, that was when they invaded Afghanistan. They invaded that. I remember when they entered Afghanistan. I remember then I was just saying, US, they will fish out this man, even if not inside rock. Osama bin Laden, they hide. Even if he's hiding in the rock, they will fish him out. I say in the next 2 weeks, they will get that man. What 2 weeks now became 21, about 21 years, almost 21, I think 20 or 21 years. For God's sake. And eventually they even pulled out in a very shameful manner.
Look, JIBRIN, there is clear evidence. Some people may call it conspiracy theories, but there's clear evidence that 9/11 was an inside job.
Of course.
A week before 9/11, the owner of the Twin Towers took out, I think, 2.something billion naira insurance on the building, and he ended up getting over 6 billion after and it was the insurance cover was against terrorist attack.
You can imagine.
And after the buildings were brought down, he got 6.something billion insurance cover. Don Rumsfeld, who was the Secretary of Defense, made statement just prior to that implicates the incident as an inside job. Thirdly, none of the planes that hit those Twin Towers, there is no single body that survived. Everything was incinerated, even the bones of the supposed pilot and everything. There was no recovery of even anything. But the passport photographs of the pilots and the terrorists was recovered from the scene. How is it that even the bodies of these people were totally incinerated without a single recovery, but the passports of the terrorists survived the heat and the fire? So there are a lot of things. Look at the second building. The way it came down was not an explosion. It's what is called controlled demolition.
Yeah,
if a building comes down,
correct,
from the bottom down,
yeah,
it's a controlled demolition, not a blast that hits the building and collapse. So there are credible reasons to suggest that it was an inside job. And if you read further, there's stories that Israel has set up a plan before to take out 7 countries. Their argument.
Who set up a plan?
Israel.
Okay, Israel.
In conjunction with the US. In conjunction with the US. That look, you cannot fight the militants in Gaza and West Bank and Lebanon and win. The only way you can win them is by fighting the countries that support them. And they listed 7 countries. So they said we need to have 7 wars in 5 years. And the wars have all happened. The only country out of the 7 that has not had war is Iran. Afghanistan is there, Iraq is there, Libya is there, Lebanon is there. 7 countries out of the 7 there has been wars. America has had wars in them. The only country that has so far not seen the war is Iran, out of the countries that were supporting the Hamas, Hezbollah, and these other ones. So when you put all these things together, you cannot just dismiss it as conspiracy theories, because there are credible indicators that what happened on 9/11 was most probably an inside job.
You are absolutely right, Barrister. Honestly, that is just it. So you can see now that is why they hate Donald Trump, and no matter what good he is doing, they will hate him. The more he tries to do good, they will hate him even more. That's exactly because he is opposite of what they stand for. He is the light and they are the darkness. So everything, the man is just out dismantling everything. And he has not even started. I am so glad that this time around he has a clear understanding of how this establishment work. That first time, I almost got frustrated because I just felt, what the hell is this man doing? This man had the authority to fire all these guys that were sabotaging his government, the FBI, the DOJ, the government, especially the intelligence community, that they tried at all means to they almost wrecked that man. But thank God he learned thank God he learned his lesson. This second time, he's coming in with a whole team of loyalists, core loyal. I'm so excited at the team he constituted, he appointed right now. Those guys are core. All of them, no, they have an unflinching loyalty to him, and not just to him as a person, but they have loyalty to the interest of the United States, loyalty to the Constitution, loyalty to the good of the masses, of the generality of the populace in the country. So that is just the reality. They are on the side of the light. So their loyalty is not to Trump himself. They are just standing by him with all loyalty, 100% loyalty, because he is standing on the truth. That is just it. These guys are his really, really attack dogs. He has a kind of constituted an attack dog, and all of them are really roaring. They are roaring from different angles. So I'm just sitting down with my snacks, just snacking while I watch how Donald Trump dismantles how he dismantles the establishment. Barrister.
Of course, you are very right, because when he came in his first term, I believe he himself did not know the extent of the problem that he had a good idea, but he didn't know the depth of that problem. after the time that he left, in the 4 years, I think he came to more fully understand what he was against. And that is why today he is a man in a hurry.
Yeah.
Because he has only four more years.
Yeah.
And he looks at the problem and see that if I do not hurry, I will not be able to achieve
Correct.
what I want in the 4 years. That is why he is a man in a hurry. That is why you see he does not sleep. 200 executive orders are issued in a day and signed.
Honestly.
You can see clear evidence of somebody in a hurry, somebody who wants to finish the job within the small time that is available to him.
Yeah, that is it. Honestly, my prayer is for God to protect him, because trust me, if before he had a threat against his life, two attempts were made against him. That was a very serious threat. Honestly, after 1 whole month, after 1 full month of his this second administration, honestly, the threat has quadrupled, not doubled, has quadrupled. Trust me, all these establishment people, because they now see how potent the man is, how potent Donald Trump is. He's really coming for them, coming for their interests, coming for everything that they believe in, they stand for. So they definitely, trust me, they are dispatching, they are spending, they are doing everything they can to pull. I'm telling you, I don't think John Kennedy that was killed, was assassinated when he was the president. I bet you the threats against John Kennedy is a child's play compared to the threat against Donald Trump's life. Because
very, very,
yes, that of John Kennedy, he wanted to actually deal with just a few cabal, not just small cycle of people, a part of a chunk, just a chunk of the establishment. Yet he was assassinated. This one, Donald Trump is not just going after the establishment, the local establishment of the US. He's going after the establishment, the global establishment. Global establishment, not just the ones in the US. So you can imagine the kind of threats that is standing against this man. And honestly, I'm very sure God that delivered him from the two assassination attempts, God, the same God will keep him alive to finish this job, because he has to finish this job. He has to finish it, because we need sanity. Honestly, it got to a point that this Joe Biden regime was the worst. It got to a point that I became so discouraged about staying in the US anymore, that I was thinking very, very strongly to just retire back, because the system no longer interested in excuse me, no longer interested me, honestly. So thank God for Donald Trump, that at least we can be interested in the system again.
Show that Trump will face a lot of threats. And don't forget, the way the Secret Service operates it's not every attempt at assassination or threat to the president that are reported.
Correct, I know. You're right.
I've read many memoirs from Gerald Ford later. Most of them are unreported, except the most notorious ones.
Yeah.
You will see one president having many attempts that the Secret Service will put down. They will not alert or report it. So I'm sure Donald Trump will also face far more than what other president has been.
Of course.
Because of the fight that he has taken on.
He's fighting an unprecedented fight.
The more notorious ones will be reported, but a lot of them will be put under the radar.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, that is just it. All right, Barrister, thank you so very much for this time. I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the show. Once again, for those of you, if you have watched us to this time, to this end of the show, thank you so much for being with us. You've been listening, you've been watching Barrister Austin Manta actually dissect all the topics that we just treated. Thank you for joining us, and just keep in touch with us. You keep receiving what you just watched. Remain blessed. Barrister, once again, thank you so very much. God bless you for giving at least giving us all the time since this program, this show started. You have been forthcoming. You've been you've been really encouraged us to get to this point. Without you, honestly, this show wouldn't have gotten to where we are today. That's just reality. Yeah, God first, then you are next. So we thank you for that.
Thank you too.
All right, viewers, see you again next time, and remain blessed.